A Nerve-Wracking Experience by Lily Pinwielder. Read by Niche-lle. Chapter 1. Summary. Come to the mall with us, Midoriya. It'll be fun. Izuku is no longer having fun. An arm drops around his shoulders, pulling him into an oddly possessive side hug. Player 2, the familiar voice rasps. Long time no see. Or, following the events of Part 1, Izuku and Shigaraki cross paths at the mall, and canon will never be the same again. Come to the mall with us, Midoriya. It'll be fun. Izuku is no longer having fun. An arm drops around Izuku's shoulder, pulling him into an oddly possessive side hug. His eyes drop to the black sweatshirt sleeve, long enough to cover the person's wrists, and the long pale fingers gripping his shoulder with the pinky extended. Player 2, the familiar voice rasps. Long time no see. Izuku freezes, mind running a mile a minute to try and find a way out of this, as a slight tremor starts building in his hands. Shigaraki, what are you? The villain's grip tightens as his voice drops to a hiss. Calm down, will you? I'm not going to hurt you. Aren't you? Izuku manages, the phantom pain of the Nomu's grip from his nightmares making itself known in his side. A wave of vertigo hits as he blinks as hard as he can to focus on the here and now as his mind tries to convince him he's falling through the open air again. You didn't have any problems with hurting me last time. Shigaraki pulls back to stare at Izuku in the face. The fuck are you talking about? I didn't even touch you last time. If this is about your little friend, then yeah, I did touch her, but nothing even happened, so chill the fuck out. That's not... you... Listen, Shigaraki interjects, giving Izuku a hard shake, no easy feat considering the arm still wrapped possessively around him. I'm not going to apologize for something I didn't even do. I'm not talking about the USJ! The words burst out of him, leaving him heaving for breath, and Shigaraki hisses at the volume, red gaze darting around to check if anyone's watching them. A few odd glances come their way, and Shigaraki finally steps back and releases him with a muted curse. I'm talking about Hosu. Hosu, the villain sneers, lowering his voice with effort. I was nowhere near you in Hosu. I didn't even know you were there till after. Oh, what, so I'm supposed to believe the Nomu grabbing me and trying to carry me away to what would have been a most painful death if Stain hadn't saved me had nothing to do with you? Shigaraki falters, clearly taken aback. Yes? Izuku opens his mouth to argue further, and Shigaraki grabs him again. Listen here, Short Stack. I like you, so I don't want to hurt you. But if my side quest cuts short because you can't keep your voice down, then you'll be forced to play a penalty game. Understand? Izuku slowly nods, and the villain loosens his hold again. Good. Now act like we're old friends. Why did you drag me in here? Shigaraki growls slowly, eyes scanning around the sporting goods store as if looking for a trap. Izuku forces a nervous laugh. Well, you said to act like old friends, so, that reminded me of my friend He cuts off before he can say her name. Shigaraki may not be here to hurt him, but until he's made it clear that benevolence extends to the rest of his class, it's best to keep as tight-lipped about them as possible. My friend with a 5-point touch quirk recently bought a glove here for workouts, so her quirk wouldn't affect the equipment. He reaches for the nearby shelf, and Shigaraki's arm tightens over his shoulder reflexively before finally letting him go. Izuku swallows down the relieved sigh and digs through the products before producing a gray one. I noticed by the way you hold your pinky that you don't have anything like this, since it looks like you always keep it extended so it's slightly curved. That's the #1 mark of a 5-point touch quirk, honestly. So you should probably get something like this if you don't want people knowing your quirk right off the bat, just by looking at your hands. Shigaraki's eyes narrow, and Izuku gulps. Not that I'm telling you what to do. You don't have to. I noticed right away, and any trained analyst would probably too. But if you... He cuts off as the villain tugs the gloves from his hold to inspect them. Why these? His tone is disinterested, but Izuku takes the opening for what it is. This one seemed like the best option based on the data I already have. The fingers are all touchscreen compatible, which I thought would be a big plus, considering you like to play video games. Shigaraki's eyes snap up to his, and Izuku panics. Not that I know for sure. I just assumed from the terminology that you use that you are at least somewhat familiar, so it was a safer bet to take it into account than to not make the assumption and have the gloves be... You're right, the villain interrupts, head tilted slightly to the side like Izuku is some kind of puzzle game he needs to unlock. What else? Well, this model has fingerless pinky and ring finger. They have an option with fingerless thumb, pointer, and middle, but I thought this one would work best for you, since it could double as a deterrent for your habit. My habit? The voice is low and dangerous, and Izuku scrambles to explain. I used to pick at my cuticles, he burst out, face flushing under the weight of the other's gaze. It wasn't pretty. I used to, just... really dig in. It would bleed, and I stained a couple sheets in my bedspread, and just when I decided to try and kick the habit, I realized that while the damage wasn't limited to any one finger in particular, the main culprits of the actual picking were my thumbs and pointers. So I covered those 4 fingers with band-aids and, yeah. Shigaraki's red eyes are full-on glaring now, but the words stop for no one without actual intervention, and Izuku finds himself continuing with, "So I thought I could help you with... Unable to formulate thoughts into words any longer, Izuku's fingers come up to his own neck and slowly drags the nails down with a blunt edge. Shigaraki's glare intensifies to the point of looking downright murderous. "That is none of your business." The silence between them falls sharp and menacing, and for a single second, Izuku panics before Shigaraki is turning with a scoff to toss the gloves back onto the shelf, harder than strictly necessary. "It's a good thought, kid, but like you said last time, my quirk is my main weapon of choice. Putting a sheath on it is nice in theory, but it's a handicap I can't afford in battle." There's a brief moment where Izuku entertains the idea of making a handicap joke before utterly deciding that some things aren't worth dying for. "It would only be a handicap if you let it," he mumbles. "I mean, a 5-point activation means if you're wearing the glove, you've already got 3 fingers touching it because of them being inside. So in a pinch, all you have to do is bring your remaining fingers down onto your palm to disintegrate the entire glove." Shigaraki comes to a complete stop. People shuffle around the aisles, cash registers ding, the door opens and closes, but still the villain doesn't move. Finally, he turns back, staring Izuku head-on. "You're a genius." It's said less like a compliment and more like a fact, a prelude to a question he's building up towards. Izuku flushes and ducks his head. "Not really. Anyone could have thought of it, if they really wanted to. I'm just..." "If you refuse to be acknowledged as a genius, then aren't you implying I was too stupid to think of it myself?" Izuku blanches, hands flying wildly as he opens his mouth to try and placate the villain who's smirking at him. Izuku huffs and covers his face with his hands. "You're messing with me." "Yep," Shigaraki laughs, grabbing the gloves carefully and snagging a couple extras. "It's been a while since I've had so much fun." The villain heads to the checkout counter, and Izuku finds himself following behind, mildly shocked that Shigaraki is actually planning to pay. "So," the man says, leaning back on the bench, newly gloved hand wrapped around Izuku's shoulder to hold him close. "Since you're such a genius and all, why are people so obsessed with Stain, and not me?" Izuku takes half a second to wonder if he should be trying to escape before realizing that, honestly, here's someone he doesn't have to hold back with. He can say what he really thinks, give over his true seductions, and doesn't have to worry about losing friends or being called weird or being attacked for it or treated like he's creepy. And isn't that strange to realize? Here is a bona fide villain, leaning against his side, and all Izuku feels is safe to finally speak his mind. It's weird, but also really nice. "Collateral damage," he says slowly, choosing each word carefully so as to fully explain his position. "At your core, both of you are villains, using your quirks to kill because you've become discontent with hero society. The only real difference is collateral damage. Heroes aren't perfect. The common citizen doesn't have personal ties to heroes, so all they know of them is their public persona and whether they've ever failed. And the citizens that have been personally wronged by heroes," his voice cracks as he whispers, "they don't forget." And isn't that the truth? Izuku can still vividly remember the heroes who didn't act while Kacchan was in trouble. And if Kacchan had actually died that day, he knows he would have felt secretly vindicated if Stain had gone after any of them. That thought scares him, so he pushes it away to continue. So when Stain makes the news for having killed a supposedly false hero, they feel, here's someone who gets it, and then they go about their day, business as usual. They're unaffected personally by the hero's death, which leaves them free to cheer Stain on. Secretly, of course, in the deepest recesses of their heart, and from behind anonymous usernames, because at the end of the day, it is still murder. But cheer him on they do. Izuku takes a deep breath and risks a glance at Shigaraki. The villain hasn't moved, looks to actually be listening, so Izuku clears his throat and goes for it. The attack on Hosu alone led to destruction of multiple buildings, both residential as well as business. There were fires and the train tracks got damaged. Izuku shudders as it starts to sink in that he's sitting comfortably beside a man responsible for all that chaos, and his voice hushes impossibly further. People got hurt and people died. Some lost their homes and some lost their jobs, and that's just a lot to expect people to ignore even if they did agree with your goals. But at the USJ, Shigaraki interjects, and Izuku steamrolls right over him. Kids were at the USJ. First years at a hero school, sure, but still kids. All Might was your main target, and only the teachers got hurt, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you put 20 kids in danger and would have killed us all if we hadn't fought back. And public opinion will never side with child killers. So you're on Stain's side. Shigaraki snarls, sounding remarkably put out about this for some reason. What? No, fuck Stain! It comes out as a shout, bursting with indignation and hatred, and he doesn't even register Shigaraki leaning away from him wide-eyed as Izuku spits. He goes around ending careers and killing the ones he's deemed not even deserving to live, but he fucking has All Might up on a pedestal as the only one he actually believes is worthy, so deep down he's not even trying to spread his message or affect change. He's just waiting for every single other hero to give him a reason. Izuku is on his feet and yelling now, but he can't stop. Won't stop, because it's been way too long since these thoughts have occurred to him, with no way to let them out, and he's done keeping them bottled up. Being a hero for the wrong reasons doesn't take away from the fact that you saved someone. Even if you only did it for the fame or money, that person is still alive because you stepped in and did something. Acting like you can only be a hero if you're altruistic just means you don't value life as much as you value heroism. Izuku falls silent, finally noticing the way Shigaraki and everyone in the courtyard is staring at him. He flushes and throws himself back onto the bench, posture bent and defensive. Fuck Stain, he mumbles. Shigaraki doesn't say anything for a minute. He's squinting at Izuku like something occurred to him, and he just needs the last piece to tie it all together. So you don't agree with Stain, he says slowly, leaning closer as a smile pulls at his cracked lips. And you don't agree with the League, but you do agree that Hero Society isn't perfect. He says it like it's a prize, like it means something important. Izuku shrugs. He's already shared so many of his private opinions. What's one more? I mean, yeah, growing up as I did, sure, it's got flaws. I didn't really have anything better to do than chase after fights, and you start to realize very quickly which heroes are prioritizing being the ones to make the actual save over teamwork and stuff. And then there's the heroes who make it big on the charts and then stop actively patrolling if they aren't specifically requested and kind of segue into just being famous. The name Uwabami is on the tip of his tongue, but he bites it back. No specific examples. Shigaraki might be tolerating his presence and maybe even enjoying the conversation, but that doesn't erase the fact that he's still a villain. Izuku needs to be careful, or he'll accidentally set the man on a new path and be culpable in any subsequent attacks. And all that's just the problem with the actual heroes themselves. Just having heroes at all has affected the way regular people react to bad things around them. We look away when people call for help because we aren't heroes, and surely a hero will show up soon. People don't try to save themselves even when they are able to, and when powerless kids run in to help someone because the heroes aren't doing anything, they get scolded and told that they could have died, and made out to be worse than villains even though the heroes weren't even fucking doing anything, and he was literally dying. How did it become my fault just because I didn't have a... Izuku cuts off wide-eyed before forcing an awkward cough into his fist. Shigaraki laughs. What's this? A tragic backstory? Do I need to grind some more friendship points to unlock it, or can I hear it now? Izuku shoots him a scathing look, and the villain just grins at him, so Izuku scrambles for a subject change. Was that all? I did come here with my friends, you know, so they'll be looking for me soon, if they aren't already. Trying to get rid of me? Shigaraki laughs. Well, alright then. Last question, and I'll let you go, since you agree there's a problem and all. Izuku narrows his eyes, feeling like the villain is trying to trick him somehow. Okay. How exactly would you go about effecting change, without enraging the masses in public opinion or killing off false heroes? Oh, is that all? Easy. Vigilantism. He gets up to leave, and Shigaraki grabs him by the wrist to keep him in place. It's with an odd sort of detachment that Izuku notes the grip is all 5 fingers this time. Shigaraki adjusts to his new gloves remarkably fast, all things considered. What? You can't just drop a one-word answer on me and expect me to accept it. Explain. Now. By the wording alone, it sounds like a threat, but Izuku doesn't feel like he's in danger at all. In fact, he's starting to feel a prickle of excitement build up at finally being able to share his most secret of old backup plans with someone. I'm glad you asked, he beams, sitting back down so he faces Shigaraki head on. So let's say there's a specific hero you want to depose. Hypothetically, let's call them Endeavor. So the best way to tank their rankings would be to just show up whenever they do and save the day first. They lose face in the eyes of the public, can't claim any wins or close any cases, can't rise in the rankings, can't get you fired because you aren't actually a hero. You get the picture? Now, if said bad hero, Endeavor, hypothetically of course, is in the hero biz for, quote, wrong reasons, then it shouldn't take too long for this to make him quit. He'd be losing money and popularity, and if the Vigilante spends it just the right way, they can get public opinion on their side very easily, since people love an underdog, and civilians will be very loyal to someone that saves them, legal hero or no. Most people would find this kind of plan unachievable, but you've got a warp user in your league, right? Kurogiri, Shigaraki mumbles thoughtfully. Yeah, so most vigilantes can't just show up anywhere or get away easily once the heroes have mobilized to chase them, which that's another way to sway public opinion, since if heroes start prioritizing catching the vigilante over saving people or taking down the villains, something our hypothetical bad hero endeavor would definitely do, then the public outcry would be huge. But, I'm getting off topic. Point is, all you need is Kurogiri and an accurate hero scanner to be able to arrive as soon as the call for the big hero goes out. And as long as you wear a tracker or something, then Kurogiri can just warp you back to the base as soon as you're done. No collateral damage, no unnecessary killing, and no bad rap. Wins all around. Not for Endeavor, Shigaraki muses, leaning back on the bench and rubbing his chin. Izuku coughs, hypothetically. The villain turns to look at him, and the two share a look. Shigaraki looks away first. Sure, kid, he grins, hypothetically. Shigaraki Tomura watches the boy leave and chuckles to himself as he finally calls Kurogiri to warp him back to the bar. Vigilantism solely for the sake of crumbling hero society. He muses while the line rings. Sounds fun. Now he just has to convince the new recruits. Hello! I want to say thank you to everybody who sent me encouraging comments. This is fun and I'm glad that people like it. I am still slowly teaching myself editing, so it's going to probably take a while for these. Chapter 2 of this might not be out until next week, and depending on how much I can get recorded after work this week. Well, you can leave a comment and tell me what you thought if you want, and I will be back with Chapter 2 hopefully soon.